And here to talk with us today about Pride Month in Boise is Executive Director of Boise Pride, Don Williamson. Thank you so much for joining us here on the News at 4.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're talking about Boise Pride. Walk us through what that is.
Boise Pride Festival is a celebration of the LGBTQ plus community and its allies, and it's a time for the community to get together and know that they've been seen, that they've been heard, and that they have allies in this fight, especially with a legislature that tends to target them a lot right now.
We get a lot of viewer questions about Pride Month being in June, but here, Boise Pride Festival starts in September. Kind of talk about why that is.
It was in June during Pride Month for forever. COVID changed that. In 2020 we had to move to completely virtual. 21 there was no festival, so 22 we shifted it to November to give sponsors more time for fundraising, to kind of create some space between the COVID epidemic publicly and create protocols so that we could have a safe event, which we did. But we found that there was just a lot of benefits. It wasn't nearly as hot, which our talent appreciates and bigger people like myself appreciate. A huge thing for us is, as big as we are still in a small market when you're looking at Seattle Pride and San Francisco and Portland. So having it in September allows us to be able to afford and attract talent and vendors that we normally wouldn't be able to, because we're competing against those big cities and having to pay a Pride premium on top of that because of them all being in demand. So it was just far too many benefits to outweigh the cons to shifting it to September. And then that moving forward allows us to develop new programming, new events that we can do during Pride Month, which we did a couple new ones this year, and we'll build on those in future years. And then allows us to give support to growing Pride festivals around the state, like North Idaho and Sun Valley and South Idaho, et cetera.
Which brings me to my next point. What are some of those events happening right now that people can attend?
There's been quite a few, but I know PFLAG is having a Pride picnic in the park in Moscow. I believe that's on the 17th. Here, Boise Pride Festival, Treasure Pound Posse is doing a fundraiser for us the morning of the 17th near the Green Acres food truck. And then that night, there's a national Pride bar crawl company that's donating a portion of the ticket sales to Boise Pride Festival this year. That'll be the evening of the 17th. Then I know that Idaho Falls Pride events are going to be the week of the 22nd to the 24th, I believe. You can also go to the North Idaho Pride Alliance website, and there's a list of Pride events that are going to be happening throughout June and into July.
All right, so a lot going on right now, as well as come September.
Yes,
very
All right,
much so. Don Williamson, thank you so much for joining us here on the News at 4. We really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you.
Right. We'll be right back.